Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Well, it's official. I both love and hate Loki. Well, I guess I'm gonna get started here. Okay, so we're finally going to be reviewing all of the Loki series so far. Now, I've done reviews for all the other episodes. Episodes 1 through 5. I've done a bunch of reviews. They'll be in the description if you want to. This is the episode 6 review. If you have not seen Loki and you still want to see without spoilers, and yes, there is a massive spoiler in this episode, and not the thing you think it is, because you all probably already guessed the plot twist, or at least those of you who are looking into the theories and that kind of stuff, you know a little bit more, and know even a little bit about the Avengers. But there are spoilers, so warning you, passing up. As for the series as a whole, yeah, it's good. It's good. It gave me that weird frustration I have with a lot of things, where it's like, they left us without fully satisfying the series, so it's like, oh, okay, there's obviously going to be a season 2 or some kind of continuation. Maybe we'll continue on WandaVision, in the Multiverse of Madness. Maybe Loki will get a season 2. I'm really hoping Loki gets a season 2. But regardless, it left me kind of, like, I love the series. I really want it. But I feel like they should have shoved, like, one more episode in here to wrap up all the plot threads. But I have a feeling the plot threads are going to be wrapped up in other places, so that's fine, whatever. I really liked the twist. Really good twist. Liked it. Wasn't what I was expecting, actually. So, I was very interested in that. And yeah. So, this is your last chance. Back out if you don't want spoilers. Everybody gone? Okay. So, we go off from where we were. Loki and, what was the female Loki's name? Sylvie. Okay, Sylvie. So Loki and Sylvie enchant the creature that's been eating all the different divergent timeline stuff that the the Time Variance Authority have been dumping at the end of time. And they open the gateway to the end of time itself, the final fortress at the end of time and space, where they find Kang the Conqueror, sort of. For those of you who don't know, this is going to turn into a little, hey, minor comic facts. You can probably find better versions of this information literally anywhere else on the internet, but I'm going to give him a shot again. So, Kang the Conqueror is one of the few original Avengers, villains. One of the ones specifically created for the Avengers as a team. For what I've learned about the Avengers over the years, I'm not a huge into comics, but I know a lot about the history of comics because I just find it fascinating. Don't ask. I'm weird like that, okay? So the Avengers were apparently a premise that was kind of just thrown on Stan Lee and a lot of the writers and artists who worked on it, because they just needed a team book. And so it took a little while for them to figure out what to do with it, and Kang was one of their kind of first ideas. He's basically an evil version of Doctor Who. Oh god, I'm operating 4 levels of nerddom right now. Okay, he's a time traveler with a time machine that doesn't really have limits or problems. Most fiction time machines always come with a catch, ooh, we can almost destroy the universe or whatever. No, Kang's is one of those self-correcting, he can do whatever he wants, no limits on how far he can go back, no limits on where he can go, no limits on how many times he can go back, that kind of thing. He's basically a Time Lord. Yeah, he's a Time Lord from Doctor Who. So the whole deal with Kang is that he discovered the secret of time travel. It differs depending on where you're looking at in a cartoon or whatever. And he used this technology to set himself up as a conqueror in the 31st century. And occasionally he'll pop back in time to prevent people from messing with the timeline and stopping him from achieving his great future, or he'll be bouncing around the timeline setting up that future, because remember, he was supposed to be going through all the time setting up everything that needed to go right for his rise to power. Whenever his timeline gets disrupted, he gets cranky and starts trying to do stuff. He has other versions of himself, like Immortus, who's the big alpha dog. And that's about it. It's just a bunch of different people. It's just a bunch of time travel stuff. And he's, a conqueror. Duh. He comes back in time, sometimes fights the Avengers. They stop him, but he's like, oh no, I'll have to go even further into the future to set up my future. I will not be denied, and blah, blah, blah. Rinse and repeat, comic book villain. So, most people who know about Kang assume that he was going to be the villain at the end of Loki, because it's the Time Variance Authority. Kang is the big time travel villain in the MCU, the judge and like the supervisor time variance authority person, the woman Ravonna Renslayer. She actually is like associated with Kang in the comics. Sometimes she's his wife or lover, and sometimes she's his like mortal enemy. So this whole thing was like Kang, Kang, Kang. It was very obviously Kang. And the idea of him, making a single timeline where he gets to be a conqueror, very much in line with him. Except they don't really do that. I mean, they do, but it's different than usual. See, basically, what we get explained by Kang, he's just the one who remains in this one, but he's very clearly, I was once a conqueror, and we see all the images like, yeah, this is Kang. This guy's Kang. And he is one of the many versions of Kang. See, in the MCU, there is the branching multiverse theory, which is the idea that all these different timelines were coexisting at the same time. Imagine kind of like a tree, each branch, that kind of thing. You've all heard this before. So, Kang, in multiple timelines, including apparently this one, discovered the technology to travel between timelines. Not sort of a fusion between parallel realities and time travel. So, Kang used this technology to meet with other versions of himself. And for a while, everything was great. They shared technology, they shared improvements and advancements between their worlds, helped make the world a better place. Unfortunately, Kang the Conqueror is still a thing. He's just not this Kang, or a few of the Kangs he first met. There were other Kangs who were more like the comic Kang the Conqueror. Trying to conquer all of time itself, make it their dominion. Become the overlord of time. And since there were so many of them, all pretty much equally powered, it turned into a giant multiversal war, like the Time Variance Authority says happened in the beginning. However, where it goes wrong, though, is that time wasn't nearly destroyed. The Kangs were just causing too much chaos, and this one Kang, the one we're talking, the two Loki and Sylvie meet, discovered a monster that could devour timelines. And he used it to erase all the other timelines, wipe them out, and then take his and continue to use the monster to prune off any timelines that branch off bit to prevent any of his evil counterparts from doing anything. He created a single timeline where everything went to the end, the monster had to devour all the timelines it wanted, and his evil versions weren't causing pure multiversal chaos anymore. However, he's tired. He's been there so long that time just doesn't have a meaning for him anymore. He's gotten to the point where he knows everything that will ever happen in the entire timeline off the top of his head. He really gets the sense of this person who made this grand sacrifice to wait at the end of time and I will guard over what it will ever be. And then you get the feeling that it's after that heroic sacrifice that usually comes in a movie, the literal eons afterwards where this person suddenly realizes their life has no meaning and they just want it to all end. They're so sick of it all. So he manipulated things so that both the Loki variants, Loki and Sylvie, would get here. He planned out everything. He even knew exactly what they were going to do so they can't hurt him because he set his watch to basically avoid any attacks he knows are going to come. And he tells them, I want you to take over for me. He wants them to go back, run the Time Variance Authority, maybe run it better than he did, maybe instead of killing variants, they could recruit them or whatever. And that's his proposition. I will give you complete control of the Time Variance Authority so long as you maintain this timeline. And then he's asked why they don't just kill him. And his answer to that was fascinating. I loved it. It was, if you kill me, all of this is just going to happen again. See, the multiverse will spark up, my evil versions will come, you'll all suffer and hate it, and then, eventually, I'm going to happen again in another timeline, and when I find the time-devouring monster again, I'm going to erase all the other timelines, we'll do this all over again, and we'll be right back where we started. And I love that. I love it so much. It's you either take over for me, or you kill me, and next time I'll just find someone else to try this. And in the meantime, you'll have to deal with my evil, Time Lord counterparts, And then we reach the point, after time itself, where the universes start branching again. He's like, I don't know what's gonna happen after this. You only have a little while before the timelines start branching and everything goes to hell again. So either go be the Time Variance Authority, and I'll clean things up here, finish off the loop, or you kill me, and we start all over again. Now, obviously, Sylvie is still hung up on all her, you took away all my life and everything I ever held dear, so I'm going to murder you, and Loki's like, Sylvie, we can't. So, and Loki has finally actually grown a bit of a conscience, is like, Sylvie, what if he's telling the truth? What if this will, like, lead to tons of evil, conquerors from all these different timelines descending upon our world and screwing up everyone's lives? He wants to go back to the Time Raiders story, like, maybe remake it something better, or even just, like, think about this for a moment. But Sylvie feels betrayed by him, they fight, Sylvie manages to knock him through a portal back to the TVA, and she kills Kang. And then he starts saying, they're coming. You're in for a wild ride. And Sylvie's just left there at the end of time, all alone. Meanwhile, Loki gets knocked back into the Time Raiders Authority, and he starts shouting at everyone, because, they're full on alarms, the timeline is branched, there are all these multiverses. He starts shouting at them, he's coming, there's so many of him, he was too powerful, we didn't even touch him, and there are going to be dozens of him. We have to prepare. And they're like, do we know you? It's Mobius and, like, Agent 13, I believe. She was the guard that caught Loki originally. And they're like, so, what division are you from? What division are you from? And it's like, wait, you don't know me? And it's like, oh, snap. The timelines had already diverged, and he's in a parallel reality, and now Loki's trapped in an alternate version of the TVA who doesn't know who he is, because the TVA now exists in multiple timelines, which is just, I'm so confused, and I love it. Oh, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Meanwhile, Ravonna disappeared into the ether and is going to go hunt down the creator. He's dead now. The weird hologram Miss Minutes is obviously planning with something with her. She gave her something, and we know she's working for, she's like the little hologram animated mascot of the TVA. But we know she was working for the Kang the Conqueror, like the good Kang, the He Who Remains. And so she gave something to Miss Minutes, probably as like a failsafe in case the Lokis did something stupid. And yeah. So everything seems to be in play for a second season, which I'm all on board for. Like, more of this, please. But like at the same time, I feel like we need another episode. Like, there's where did Ravonna go? She disappeared into a portal. Do we know where? If this isn't our Mobius, what's happening to our Mobius in Agent 13? What's gonna happen to Loki now he's got trapped in this timeline? Will he be able to find his way back? How? I mean, it's basically like a giant mess of infinity at this point. And now Sylvie's trapped in the end of time, and the good Kang is dead. Now all the evil Kangs are gonna come. So what's gonna happen? All very confusing. Definitely setting up some stuff for like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because apparently Kang's gonna show up there. And maybe in Spider-Man. Well, we'll have to see. I definitely am really liking the new multiverse angle that Marvel's going on, so looking forward to that. The guy who played Kang nailed it. I loved him. Like, he played this like kind of like, I've been here forever. I already know how this is going to happen. I basically had this conversation 5 times before. Can you just get to the point? And at the same time, he's kind of like, oh, it's funny. They think they can actually do something I didn't know about. That whole moment where he reveals to them, it's like, hey, so, you know how these things work, right? The little time bracelets let me accelerate and decelerate my placement in time, and that's how I'm dodging all your attacks. But you're wondering, how do I keep having the reflexes to dodge Asgardian attacks? Because I already knew exactly when to set the timer on this thing to dodge for me. So, yeah, it's already pre-programmed with every attack you're already going to make, and so you can't do anything. And I loved him. I'm definitely on board for him playing like an evil version of Kang later on, because they're all gonna be the same guy. He's gonna be a lot of fun. Love it. Definitely looking forward to Kang. I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with Sylvie, because now she's finally achieved her goal, but, at the expense of the entire multiverse, or at the very least of this timeline. And I'm interested to see where Loki's gonna go now that he's trapped in like this alternate, TVA. Like, he's gonna be talking with alternate Agent 13 and Agent Mobius. And then the original Agent Mobius and Agent 13 are like, their entire reason for existing at this point has like been shredded. So, you know what? Loki, really good. I mean, we already knew Loki was gonna be good though, didn't we? Like, they had the best of the MCU villains. Yes, I will say that. Killmonger is probably a better narrative villain, but I always just love Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Like, there was just something. There's a reason he was the villain in the Avengers, because he was the best villain in the first few movies. And I think he's one of, if not the best villain that the MCU's had. Definitely there are those with better thematic weights and have a lot more meaning behind it, but for me, he's always just been the most fun. Actually, I liked him so much that I ended up reading some of the Loki comics and some of the Thor comics just because I wanted to get more of that trickster god. And what can I say? I've always loved the trickster god. Seriously, read Norse mythology. Oh god, it's so bizarre. That time Loki got his mouth sewn shut. Please make that into a freaking episode of Loki. I would love to see it. Yeah. So yeah, this is a bit of a short episode today because wasn't much to talk about. We all kind of knew where it was heading. All the actors were great. Animation is still top notch. I'm actually really interested in the Mitz Minutes thing. Like, is she pursuing a secondary agenda to Kang, or is she just following his orders? I'm definitely interested to see where that goes. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.